The Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts is honoring two of its most beloved and longest-serving faculty members with an exhibition of their work in the Hamilton Building. I got there just before the opening. All right, this is one of the people who put the show together. I'm going to follow around and question her. What's your name?
Kate McCammon. I am the Student Affairs Manager, and I graduated from PAFA's MFA program in 2016. We are setting up for the Dan and Bruce exhibition here.
Who's the brains behind the show?
Michael Gallagher, his undergraduate class. The students got to help put the show together, and Michael also folded me in. Dan and Bruce were both my teachers when I was in school, so getting to handle their work was really magical.
I had those guys as teachers in 1976.
Oh, they're the best.
I know. I think sadly they're old now, and you got the old version. I got the young version. Dan was only 100 then.
Well, they're just both remarkable, so we're very excited.
I'm Bruce, and this is Dan.
Been here a long time.
Yeah.
If you added up your ages, how old would the combined teacher be?
120 years.
I bet it's a little more than that. How old are you, Bruce?
Tough questions. 78.
97?
This summer.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll do the math later.
Not yet.
I've made movies about both of these men, asking them about their lives and art. But for this movie, I wanted to find out what some of their former students had to say about them, starting with myself. I'm John Thornton, and I graduated from the Academy in 1980. I idolized both these teachers. Dan Miller lectured on art history with an artist's eye. I love how he often championed lesser-known artists over their more famous peers, emphasizing that artistic value and worldly success are not the same. That's an incredibly valuable lesson. I also vividly remember Bruce Samuelson's critiques. He looked at your work with both a macro and a telephoto lens, so he could explain exactly why your foreshortening of an arm was off and how to fix it. And he could also suggest artists for you to look at that might help you develop your work thematically.
My name is Amalfi Ramirez Finnerty, and I graduated in 1980. Dan, my beautiful man, I love him and Bruce. Excellent experience with these teachers of mine 50 years ago. They made you feel like you were part of their family, actually. They were true mentors in every possible way, mentally, physically, emotionally. And then the teaching was just exceptional. As a young person, I really learned a lot on how to live my life through them. You were invited to their house, and you were invited to go out, and you were always invited.
I'm Glenn Harron. I graduated in 1981. Dan and Bruce were both major influences in my life. They were both very encouraging and knowledgeable. I wouldn't be a painter today without their influence.
Hi, I'm Casey Miller. I graduated from PAFA in 2024 with my MFA, and I'm currently taking a relief printmaking class with Dan Miller in continuing education. Honestly, Dan Miller is a national treasure. He is so knowledgeable, so kind, and so thoughtful. Every single time I have a conversation with him, I learn something important about printmaking. It's truly been a delight to take a class with him.
My name is Graham. I graduated in 2021. They were both wonderful teachers. Bruce had such simple setups in his class that were so complicated to paint. I would walk in every day and be like, I've got this. And then I would be so frustrated by the end of class. But Bruce always was so kind and generous with his words and helpful. And same with Dan. Dan always has amazing stories to share about any number of subjects. I love them both. I'm so happy to be here today.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Wilson. I graduated from the Academy in 1983. I took Bruce Samuelson's drawing class in the summer of '79, and that's why I ended up coming to the Academy. I was going to the Corcoran, and I liked his class so much that I had to transfer. And I had Dan Miller for art history, and his classes just opened my eyes to everything, and I'm indebted to both of them.
My name is Tom Hayes, and I graduated in 82.
Dan Miller was teaching art history when I was there, and he is one of the few lecturers in art history that I ever found to be really interesting. Plus, I admired his work, and I took a lot of initiative from it, let's say. There was a lot of freedom in his work, as disciplined as he was. Bruce Samuelson, I didn't study with, but he was always around at key times to show work to, and he always had good insights. And I always admired his approach to his painting.
I'm Signe Wilkinson, and I attended the Academy for a few years, about a century and a half ago.
Signe, so you didn't have them, but you know them.
Yeah, they were around, and you could pass by their classes, go in, and they would talk to you and help you. And that was part of the Academy experience that everyone was here for, us students.
Hi, I'm Larry Francis. I graduated in 1971 from the Academy. Bruce was not yet teaching when I was a student, but I had Dan as a critic, and he was really helpful and insightful, and he always would pick out an area of the painting that worked best and point it out. And it's beautiful to see his show here, both Bruce and Dan. It's really wonderful to see all the work up.
You were saying that along with Lou Sloan,
Dan and Bruce were the ones who got my first show for me set up at the Peel House.
Dan and Bruce, that Peel House show of Larry's is where I first met him and how we became lifelong friends. So thank you for that.
My name is Anna Yates Crane, graduated in 87. Oh my goodness, these guys made it so much fun to be here. They were just buddies from the beginning, and that's the best kind of teacher, one who makes you feel like they're not above. They're just right with you all the time. So I love Dan and Bruce. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Garth Herrick. I graduated in 1985. I had these two teachers 44 years ago, and they haven't changed.
Did they teach you a lot?
They taught me everything.
My name is Nina, and I graduated this year. Dan Miller. He's a really interesting teacher, taught me a lot about woodcut, had him as a crit today, really informative advice.
I'm Stuart Chills. I graduated in 1982 after 5 years at school here. I worked here for many years, and the woodcuts that I saw painting majors construct, the quality of imagination and emotionality as form that Dan was able to introduce in this class because he taught them how to think graphically is one superb achievement.
Marjorie Robbins, and I'm a post-bac student here at PAFA. Bruce was my teacher for continuing ed and for undergrad courses, and then I'm in the post-bac program. And I would say that Bruce was very instrumental in having me here. He was the best.
My name's Jeff Filbert. I graduated in 1982.
You had both these guys?
No, wondering why I never had Bruce Samuelson. I did have Dan Miller, though, for painting. He was a good teacher. I liked him. But I'm just really flabbergasted about the prints. This one in particular is just absolutely marvelous.
My name is Maureen Durdak, and I graduated from PAFA in 1975. I made a special trip here to see the work of Dan Miller and Bruce Samuelson. They both have very distinctive styles. They were very impactful teachers for me. Particularly, my work was affected by Bruce's work, his biomorphic handling of the figure, which I always found to be both structurally intriguing and very sensual.
Hi, my name is Paul Dussault, and I graduated from the Academy in 1985. Bruce, everybody wanted to be in his class, and I remember going into one of his classes when I wasn't actually registered, and the class was packed. Bruce came around and said, "Are you on my roll?" And I said, "No, actually I'm not," and he just rolled his eyes like, "Oh, for God's sake, this class is already too crowded." He said, "All right, well, just stay out of the way." You know. And then the thing that was wonderful about Dan was that to class, he always wore a tie and a jacket. It made you feel like, yes, there are intelligent, educated adults who've dedicated their life to this, who have decided that painting and drawing is a significant way to spend their life, even though it's not the path to riches.
My name is Fran Carter, and I graduated, I think, in 1987 or something like that. Well, they were both great, inspiring and supportive of a creative process.
Doyle here, graduated in 1992. Can't say enough about Dan and Bruce. Congratulations, guys. Great to see you. Great guys, always willing to come in the studio and talk to you.
Giovanni Casadei, I'm graduated in 1992. I had Bruce and Dan Miller as teachers when I was here at the school, and they're wonderful people. What I really appreciate is the encouragement and the dedication of their teaching.
My name is Juan Gomez. I graduated in 2015 from a master's degree. Dan Miller was one of the most influential teachers. His work and his knowledge resonates in the work that I continue to do now. Bruce Samuelson also, I learned a lot from both of those iconic figures in PAFA. Don't leave Philadelphia without seeing the show.
My name is Jennifer Baker. I graduated in 1978. I did not have either of them for studio teachers because I was in the sculpture department, but Dan taught art history, and I loved those lectures. They were, if I remember, every Friday afternoon, an enjoyable way to spend the afternoon after many hours in the studio.
Jenny, thank you so much for taking these pictures of me with Bruce and Dan, even though they make it look like they're not the only ones who are aging.
My name's John Luca, and I graduated in 2024 from the MFA program. And I had Bruce as a teacher while I was a graduate student, which was unusual. And I found him to be incredibly helpful. And then after that, he actually became an unofficial critic of mine and came to my studio and was very supportive of my work. And I'm very fond of his work.
Hi, my name is Al Gurry. I graduated from PAFA certificate program in 1976. I had Dan as an instructor. He taught art history. He was marvelous because it was from an artist's point of view, not the typical dry art history. So it was a lot of fun. I remember him making comments about Rubens' fat ladies. It was so hysterical. It was never boring and always delightful.
Bill Rapensky.
Hi, how are you?
Do you know these two guys who are showing today?
I do, and I just admire them so much. I'm so glad we had this opportunity to really showcase their art. These two magnificent professors, and they'll go down in history and in our minds. They formed us all.
Hi, I'm Doug Martinson. I graduated from PAFA in 1982.
These two artists are so synchronized, and they've been that way teaching with their work, and we always see them together. When you see Dan, you see Bruce. When you see Bruce, you see Dan. And there's this a sense of them being PAFA.
My name is Michael Gallagher. I graduated from the certificate program in 1987, and I graduated from the MFA program in 2001. I've watched both of those gentlemen mentor countless students through this program, and being able to put the two of them together in the School of Fine Arts Gallery has been a real pleasure, a real joy. I'd always wanted to do a show like this, pairing the two. I ran it by Jill Rapinski, and she thought it was a great idea, and it coincided with a class that I'm teaching this semester called Exhibitions and Curatorial Visions. And so we were able to have a pedagogy attached to this exhibition. It was an opportunity we couldn't pass up. If you're in town, please come and see the show.
Dan, what does this show mean to you?
It's kind of a culmination of all these years of teaching, and with the ebb and flow of this institution, to be honored in this way was unexpected and deeply appreciated by both Bruce and I.
What does Bruce mean to you?
Wonderful friend. He helped me build my house in Maine. He did odd jobs for me out on the farm where I live. A companion in this adventure of making art.
What does this show mean to you?
Everything.
What does Dan Miller mean to you?
Everything.
You were invited to go out, and you were always invited. We used to do a lot of Tuesday nights at the bar.
We would go to the Tuesday nights, go out and have beer. It was fun.
And afterwards, always go out and have a beer.
Was the Academy one of the last places that faculty and students could have beer together?
No, we do that quite often at the Wayne Arts Center.
Walked into the front doors of the Academy, and I knew I was home. And I haven't left since.
It was where I always wanted to be, but never knew it. Didn't know a place like that existed.